What's up, everybody? Welcome to the video. Chris Pennell here. We're taking a first look at Week 7 of the NFL season for DraftKings and FanDuel. As I always say, it's more of a casual video as pricing just came out. We're looking at the matchups, and we'll try to build a lineup together as we talk through it very early in the week before we have a good grasp of the injury news for this upcoming weekend. But of course, on Saturday morning, we'll go game by game, talk cash games, tournaments, and break it all down. If that all sounds good to you, do me a favor, leave a like down below, subscribe channel for brand new. Let's dive right into it. Really quick, if you like what you see on the screen behind me, there's that and a lot more available at my website, cpendfs.com, that I built. If you want to check the link down in the description, you can do that, or the pinned comment. And the first week is free. But data projections, optimizer, all that good stuff, you know where to find it. And as always, we'll start with the quarterback position. And I gotta say, I feel like this is our smallest QB pool, at least on a Tuesday, that we have seen. This could grow by Saturday, Sunday, but I really do feel like these guys are the standouts this week. The highest totals, the highest over-unders. Just makes a lot of sense to kind of be keyed in on these guys. Probably maybe a chalkier week at quarterback. I feel like the top two are very obvious. Patrick Mahomes and Jaden Daniels. Especially Jaden Daniels looked good last night on Monday Night Football. Did fumble the game away, unfortunately, in the wet conditions, but still a solid fantasy day nonetheless. But he gets the dream matchup versus Dallas. But yeah, we have another small slate, 10 games. We have the 2-gamer on Monday. I believe we have a London game again. I want to say it's the Rams. I'm sure we have teams on bye. So yeah, we have these smaller slates, but we've been used to it the past few weeks, so nothing new. But let's get into it here. So we have the top two dogs. Patrick Mahomes, who is having an MVP season. Kind of felt like he's been off maybe the past couple of years, but this offense is clicking right now. Patrick Mahomes looks incredible. He's been great on the ground. We haven't really seen that, it feels like, in a while. At least we see it in the playoffs when they try, but it seems like they're trying right now in the regular season. He looks good. Plus, he's getting his number one weapon back in Rashee Rice. I'm sure he'll be limited in some capacity, but when he's on the field, they're going to use him, and that's a major boost for Patrick Mahomes. So they have a fully healthy offense right now. The running backs are kind of but that just makes it even better for Mahomes. You have Travis Kelce. I know he's old, but still can be productive out there. But the wide receiver room is nice right now. You have Rice, Juju, Xavier Worthy, Tyquan Thornton's always good for a bomb at some point. Hollywood Brown is there. So yeah, he's got all the weapons you can ask for. 29.5 implied team total, which is the highest of the week. They are playing at home. The only issue is this massive 11.5 point spread. So that is like, there's not really any stacking options I love on Las Vegas. So if you are playing this game, it's probably just Chiefs for me. But I also think you can play Mahomes naked because he has so many weapons to get the ball to. It's probably going to be pretty difficult to project on a week-to-week basis who the guy you want to have paired with him. So this is one of those situations where I think you can't play him naked because he has been running the ball quite a bit this year. We're talking nearly 40 rushing yards per game at over 6 rushing attempts. Also nearly a rushing touchdown per game. He's at 0.7 right now, which is pretty big for Mahomes. So if you want to go with him, I am fine with it. Jaden Daniels, I'm assuming, will probably be the highest owned quarterback of the week. 54.5 over-under in this one, which is by far the highest of the week. 28.5 implied team total, which is only 1 point lower than the Kansas City Chiefs. And we also only have a 2.5 point spread. We're also in the Jerry Dome. Nothing not to like about this game. This is going to be the chalk game of the week. In Dallas, of course, we know how bad they've been versus quarterbacks. They let Bryce Young have a good game versus them last week. Rico Dowdle had over 200 yards once again. I think I jokingly said in my video last week, like, I like Rico Dowdle, but I don't think he's going to get 200 yards every single week. And what do you know, he does it again. But I'm willing to bet that does not happen again, but we will have to wait and see. We're not talking about the Panthers right now, but a little bit of an injury situation here. Of course, we're going to have to keep our eyes and ears peeled for news on Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown. Terry McLaurin probably being the more important one there. I think I read a piece that said he could potentially return this week, but that's going to be a TBT kind of thing. But either way, Jaden Daniels is most likely going to be our cash QB. Now, Mahomes is $700 cheaper on FanDuel. Jaden is nearly $9,000 on FanDuel, so I could see maybe Mahomes being a little bit more popular over there. But either way, Daniels is most likely going to project as the QB1, at least top two. It's going to be very close between him or Mahomes. And then Dak Prescott on the opposite side of this game. He doesn't really have the rushing upside the previous two quarterbacks have, but what we do have is lead passing upside. 270 passing yards per game this year, over 2 passing touchdowns, throwing the ball nearly 40 times per game, and he has been awesome. And Washington hasn't exactly been great versus quarterbacks. They're currently ranked 23rd versus them this year, and we are slight dogs here for Dallas at home. They're going to be throwing the ball quite a bit again. And if he gets CeeDee Lamb back, that is going to be an upgrade, although Dak has shown, even if CeeDee Lamb does not play, he can still put up elite passing numbers. George Pickens is an awesome one replacement when CeeDee Lamb is out, and he's one of the best twos in the game when CeeDee Lamb is in, at least talent-wise. We know the talent is there. So we'll have to wait and see on CeeDee Lamb, but if he does end up coming back, that's just another boost for Dak Prescott in this one. Drake May, no longer in the 5K range, unfortunately. Those times were fun. He was always a great value play, but I'm still interested here at $6,300. Now, this game does have a lower over-under. They are 7-point favorites. They're on the road in Tennessee. I like Drake May. He has been good this year. He was good last week. He's not going to be probably a top-tier play for me, but I don't really love many quarterbacks on the slate, so it still at least puts him in the top 5 for my interest as of right now. Who to stack with kind of gets a little confusing with him. Sometimes it's Hunter Henry, sometimes it's Stephon Diggs, sometimes it's Kayshon Boutte last week. I'm pretty sure he won somebody $1 million last weekend, but Drake May is in the player pool, but for $200 more, I definitely have more interest in Dak Prescott, with that total being 12 points higher. And then Caleb Williams knocked off the Commanders last night, $5,800, so you get some rushing upside with him. You have good weapons. Now, DJ Moore did have to go to the hospital after the game last night. We will see if he ends up missing or not. That could be a boost for Burden. But right now, it's way too early in the week to even really speculate on it, because I believe he went out, came back in. I can't remember if he ended up finishing the game or not, but just have to wait and see on their injury report this week. But not a horrible game for fantasy. It's not my absolute favorite, but a 46.5 point over under in this one. It's a 5.5 point spread. The Bears do have a 26.5 point implied team total, which is pretty good. I mean, that's the same exact one as the Cowboys have currently, and everyone's going to want to be on Cowboys and Commanders. So just cheaper stacks here with Caleb. You can go with Rome Odunze. We'll see if DJ Moore ends up playing. If he happens to be out, Luther Burden, we'll have to see his price point when we talk about wide receivers. But he could certainly be an option. But Caleb is fine on his own. And plus, the Saints are currently allowing the 5th most points per game to the quarterback position. Okay, moving to our lineup. I assume everybody's going to do Washington Dallas stacks in these kind of videos this week, so let's just be a little bit different. Not that Patrick Mahomes is going to be low owned or anything, but we're going to go with the Chiefs side of things, then we'll build a KC. Maybe we'll find a Raiders run back stack option if we want, but no promises there. So we'll move on to running back. And we got some decent options this week. There's a couple down low that I really do like at their price points, but as far as spend ups are concerned, I don't really feel the need to get to Jonathan Taylor. I mean, FanDuel's $10,000. He's awesome. I mean, no ill will towards Jonathan Taylor, but man, $10,000 is really tough to get to, especially if we're going to value on this slate, which as of right now, I'm not seeing a ton of massive value. Some things can always pop up throughout the week, but it's going to be a little bit tough to get there. Josh Jacobs, I do like versus Arizona, high implied team total, touchdown favorite. He gets nearly 25 opportunities per game, bottom half matchup, which actually a top half matchup for Jacobs, bottom half the Cardinals are, versus running backs. There's nothing wrong with those two. Just elite volume, 20 plus opportunities, probably going to find the end zone. It's just a matter of being able to afford them. It's just very tough to get to them. So now we kind of get into these cheaper backs, 7K and below. Rico Dowdle, we don't know if Chuba Hubbard is going to be back or not. Well, I feel kind of bad for Chuba. He was pretty good at the end of last season. Then Rico Dowdle comes in and becomes prime Jim Brown. Of course, I'm not sure he's going to be able to keep up that pace, but when he is the main back, we'll have to see if Hubbard comes back or not. He did not practice in any capacity last week, so I would say his status is definitely up in the air. If he happens to be out again, I mean, we just have to assume they're going to keep doing the same thing with Rico. Now, the Jets it's not as easy of a matchup as we saw the previous 2 weeks for Rico. Basically had the 2 best matchups in a row against Miami and Dallas. Now, of course, he handled business. He surpassed expectations by a large margin each week. So we got to give him his flowers for that. He'll still be a solid play, but since he's up to nearly $7,000, he's not going to be a screaming value this time. Javonte Williams, really disappointing week last weekend. I expected more. I did have him on my main single-ultra team, and it just didn't work out that well. I think he only had 4 or 5 points over on FanDuel, but I like everybody in this game. If you were wearing a Dallas Cowboys jersey or a Washington Commanders uniform, I really have a lot of interest this week. It's just hard not to with this high implied team total, high over-under. Lots of points are going to be scored. We're in the Dome. No issues with Javonte. Hopefully he can bounce back, but the opportunities will still be there. He's averaging 20 per game on the season with a decent amount of targets too, and 10.3% target share, 4.7 targets per game, which is just fine for an RB1 in a high-flying, fast-paced offense. Breece Hall is on here, not because I love the matchup versus Carolina. Their defense definitely looks a bit better this year. They're only 13th versus running backs, which last year they were dead last and just historically bad last season. They definitely have improved, but no Garrett Wilson for the New York Jets, and there's really nobody else to get the ball to. If you look at their depth chart, the wide receiver position, It's probably the worst in the league by far. Garrett Wilson was definitely carrying that wide receiver course. So we're gonna have Mason Taylor probably be the wide receiver one, the top pass catcher in that offense, and then they're gonna have a heavy dose of Breece Hall, maybe some more checkdowns. It's just a very ugly situation for the Jets, and of course Justin Fields looked horrible in London, but Breece Hall is going to have no choice but to get fed the rock because there's really not many other options on this offense right now. At $6,300, that is a pretty fair price point, and he does have a decent receiving floor too on the season as it is. I mean, he's sporting over a 16% target share, which is just fine. A little bill here, $6,100. Like the price on both sites. Great matchup versus Dallas. They'll have the third most points to running backs, nearly 30 points per game, 110 rushing yards, 60 receiving yards as well. He should have a pretty decent rushing prop, I would imagine, this week. So at his price point, he does look very interesting to me if you're not going with the passing attack of Washington. Judkins will probably be the chalkiest running back of the week. At least I don't have projections or anything. I do that on Wednesday nights and Thursday mornings for the week. But I have to imagine with this soft matchup versus Miami, we've seen running backs kill them. We saw Rico Dowdle kill him. We saw Vidal, whatever it is for Los Angeles. He crushed them last week. And Judkins is a really good running back. It's just this offense absolutely sucks. But they're allowing 130 rushing yards per game on the season, allowing the fifth most points per game to running backs. We should get around 20 opportunities for Judkins. And if we're going to get that $6,000 and $7,400 on FanDuel, he is probably going to be our cash game running back. And Cleveland actually finds themselves as favorites in this game, which I thought was a little surprising. 2.5-point favorites at home here versus Miami. So this should help keep them in the game script where they don't have to throw the ball the second half of the game and Judkins kind of gets phased out. DeAndre Swift, 55-yard touchdown last night versus the Commanders on a simple out route, but then made a nice little stutter move there and crushed the defense. But Swift did not look bad at all last night. He has a little bit of pass catching upside. We have a high implied team total. He's playing at home. They're about 5.5-point favorites. The Saints have not been horrible versus running backs this year, but he is averaging 18.2 opportunities per game. His offense is projected to score some points. He's below 6K. We don't have a ton of value on this slate. I think Swift is a very solid play. And then J.K. Dobbins is kind of just an ugly volume play down here. I'm not enamored with this play. The Giants are 20th versus running backs this year, so it is a plus matchup. Just virtually zero pass catching upside here for J.K. Dobbins, but we're probably going to be looking for around 15 carries. You just kind of have to hope he finds his way into the end zone, because if he doesn't, we're really kind of just looking at around 7 to 8 points if he doesn't do that. All right, back to the build. I do not think I'm going to have the money to be able to spend up a running back. If I do end up having money at the end of this, we could upgrade these guys, but we're going to scroll down a little bit. Now, since I have Mahomes, I'm probably not going to have many, if at all, of the Commanders or the Cowboys pass catchers. So I need exposure to that game, because if there's going to be over 50 points scored, I'm probably missing something important. So I think either going with Javonte Williams or Ja'Cory here is probably going to be a must for this specific type of build. Ja'Cory is a little bit cheaper. The matchup's a bit better here for him. So we're going to go there at $6,100. Then right below him, we're just going to throw in Judkins here at $6,000, because I am most likely going to be playing Kelsey. I'll probably throw in Rice. And while they're not like super expensive, they're not free by any means. And we do have the most expensive quarterback on this slate. So we're going to try to save some money there, but I'm perfectly fine with these two mid-range running backs. And then wide receivers. We don't usually spend much time here because we talked about the quarterbacks we like. We talked about the stacks. It's kind of redundant at this point to go too in-depth in wide receiver, because I'm not one that really cares too much about the individual matchup of wide receiver. These guys get moved around the field all the time. The coaches will exploit matchups. Like, I just don't really care who the corner is exactly. The guy, they find ways to get these guys the ball, so I don't care. I'm just looking for game environments. If I have the quarterback, I'm stacking them. Don't really care about anything else. So obviously, if you have Dak Prescott, you're looking directly at guys like CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. The only problem is these guys are very expensive, so it's not like you're getting any discount on George Pickens these days. And if CeeDee Lamb is back, I mean, I know he's not $9,000, but he's still pretty pricey, $7,500. We know the talent level, we know the upside when he is healthy, and if Lamb is healthy, that is a downgrade for George Pickens, especially when he's just about the same exact price point. So it'd be kind of really difficult to get the Pickens, but I imagine that just lowers his ownership. So if you're looking for the ultimate GPP play, Lamb is healthy, you could go right back to Pickens. And then on the flip side of that game, we have Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin has not played in quite some time. If he happens to be back this week, he's only $5,800 in 64 on FanDuel. Assuming he is a full go, I can see a lot of people going there because of how elite the matchup is. The Cowboys are dead last versus wide receivers, allowing 45 points per game. And like I said, it is last and nearly 175 receiving yards specifically to the wide receiver position. Deebo Samuel was very disappointing on Monday night, but we know he'll also be an option. I like the Bears wide receivers. I like that game in general. Chris Olave would be the run back option because I'm not using Spencer Rattler as a stack, even though the matchup is pretty good. But Rome Odunze, $6,600. And then DJ Moore, we will see if he ends up playing or not. Like I said, I did see he went to the hospital overnight and did stay there. So that's a big to be determined situation that hopefully we'll know enough about by Saturday to make our decisions then. But at $5,200, if he was a full go, I mean, that's obviously pretty appealing. He was involved very early on in that game and then kind of got phased out as he was a bit banged up. I do have the Chargers wide receivers on here. I know we didn't talk about Justin Herbert, or really this game in general. It is a good game, 48.5 point over under. But I'm kind of just interested in the wide receivers right now. We saw QJ miss last week. That was a big bump for Ladd McConkey. Finally had a breakout game. We got over 100 yards with that big chunk play at the end of the game and did find the end zone. If that happened to happen again, Ladd and Keenan Allen would be very obvious targets. Keenan was pretty disappointing, but the targets were still there for him. He will be involved in this offense, and right now he does find himself as the cheapest option. Rashee Rice, that FanDuel price I completely made up because for some reason he is not in the FanDuel player pool right now. I'm hoping they end up adding him soon. They would have to. They can't really do it the day before, I don't believe. So I just randomly put in $5,500. He's $5,600 for real on DraftKings, and if assuming he is just good to go, not really any limitations, maybe they don't play him like 100% of the snaps. It's his first game, but when he's on the field, it should be meaningful, and those targets from Mahomes are going to be valuable. So I do like Rashee Rice at $5,600. We know the upside, the talent, and the usage we saw in limited time last year before Mahomes ended up just destroying his leg. I'm trying to see if we kind of skipped anybody else. I do have the other Chiefs wide receivers on here, Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown. The only downside is with Rashee Rice being back, that does just kind of zap their upside a little bit. Maybe more so Hollywood Brown than Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy, they use him in different ways to get the ball. He's also a bit of a field stretcher. Stephon Diggs with Drake May. I did not put Kayshon Boutte on here, but if you are stacking the quarterback, seriously, everybody is an option, but Stephon Diggs is the most obvious. Mentioned Chris Olave, and then Shaheed's also there with Chris Olave as just a potential run back option. He's a home run hitter. We know this Bears defense isn't exactly elite. So, and of course, there's other wide receivers you can get to on this slate, but I'm not going to sit here and talk about all 70 wide receivers in the NFL. So I think that's probably good enough for at least this. Okay, back to our build here. I want to get a pairing option with Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to go right to Rashee Rice at $5,600. Hopefully I'm not jumping the gun on him this week, but I like the price point, and I am going to assume this is the cheapest we will get him all season. So we have a 30-point implied team total. We have Patrick Mahomes. Let's play as wide receiver 1. And I'm kind of perplexed on where to go at wide receiver 2 at this point because I really don't know what our money situation's going to look like. Travis Kelce is, he's only $4,700. So honestly, we'll probably have money to spend up. If Lamb was healthy, if he's good to go this week, I'd love to play him. If not, George Pickens. But I just don't know right now. So we can rearrange some things, but I do want to get one of these top-level wide receivers because I think we might end up having the money for it because we're still just over $5,000 left. And Kelce is going to be below that threshold. We know defense for sure will be. So I don't have any Bears exposure yet. Now, I do like them this week. So I guess we could just throw in Odunze because there's a chance we could see DJ Moore miss, I guess, just depending on the severity of that injury. So we'll put in Odunze there and we'll move on. In tight ends, it's the same guys up top literally every single week. These guys don't really get priced up anymore these days. I remember Kelce back in the day used to be somewhere in the 7K range. I don't know if we've ever touched 8K, but I know for sure he was in the 7K range at some point. We don't really see that now. Trey McBride, with the targets he gets, I mean, a 26% target share, nearly 9 targets per game. He's always going to be an option because of that if you have the money. And while defense versus tight end can be a bit noisy, especially this early in the season, the Green Bay Packers are currently allowing the 3rd most points per game to the position. Ferguson's also at roughly around a 25% target share. Now, of course, if Lamb does come back this week, that could hurt him a bit, but he's still going to be useful in that offense. It's not like he's going to disappear and get 0 targets. And plus, we all love that game. Tyler Warren's been awesome. The rookie, this game is not bad. I know we didn't talk about the quarterbacks in this game, but I do like some of the pieces from this. And Tyler Warren's about as safe as it gets at the wide receiver position. Or, I'm sorry, the tight end position, although it feels like he's a wide receiver. Decent total in that one, 6.7 targets per game with a 21% target share. He's actually averaging the most receiving yards of all these tight ends on the slate. Tucker Kraft's always going to have touchdown upside if you're looking at Packers with their high total. I do like that price point on Travis Kelce. Now, Rashee Rice coming back does hurt him a bit just because there's less targets to go around, but Travis Kelce will still get his. Well, I know he's old and I guess washed. He's still running routes 72% of the time, 17% target share, over 50 yards per game, getting to the end zone a little bit. Like it's still fine. He's not completely dead yet. Harold Fannin, Njoku did leave the game last week if he happened to be out. I mean, Harold Fannin versus Miami would probably end up being the most popular option at sub 4K because Fannin, even with Njoku on the field, is pretty valuable. I mean, I'm talking about 15.5% target share, over 6 targets per game, 40 receiving yards. If he was the only guy there in a plus matchup versus Miami, that would definitely be very appealing. As Zach Ertz and game stacks, and if you have Jaden Daniels, they get into the end zone last night and was pretty productive. Michael Mayer with Brock Bowers once again being doubtful for this week. He could be your cheap run back option if you are not using Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes double stacks. And then with Garrett Wilson going down, Mason Taylor already involved in this offense, just under 5 targets per game with a 19% target share. That should just be a slight boost for him. And the Panthers are currently second to last versus the position this year as well. Okay, let's finish this off. We're going to throw in a cheap defense here as always. And the first one I see that I don't think is going to get absolutely blown out will be the winner like always. No thanks on the Raiders. No thanks on the Cardinals. Giants versus Denver. If it was at home, maybe, but I don't really love being on the road in the elevation. No thanks to the Saints. The Panthers. The Panthers are they're probably going to be the absolute chalk at defense this week, I'd have to imagine. They're dirt cheap. They really have not been that bad this year. And last I looked, at some places, I believe they were like a 1.5 favorite, although I did see basically a pick 'em in that game. They're on the road, but with no Garrett Wilson for the Jets and Justin Fields, who hands out free sacks, will hand out some turnovers. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's going to free up our lineup a bit. I don't even have to look at anything else. So now we have $5,400. I said I was going to double stack with Mahomes. You can certainly play him naked. That is 100% fine. But I usually do a double stack in the YouTube video build. So that's what we're doing. So we have Travis Kelce and we have $5,700 to play with. I'd maybe be able to get another running back in the flex spot if we wanted to. It's not something that's an absolute need. But if we wanted to spend up for Josh Jacobs, it is doable. But that puts us at $3,700. And there's really nobody I want to play down here. So probably not going to be able to do that. We do need a wide receiver 3, though. If we wanted to force in Jacoby Myers, we could for the run back, but I don't really feel like doing it. But I do have Rome Odunze, so we could get like a little game stack going if we play Olave as well. And that puts us at $6,100 for flex, which we should have a couple of decent options. Yeah, Lad McConkey if QJ happened to not play, although he was a game time decision. So I'm assuming he was almost good enough to play, so he'll probably be back this week, but we just don't know that as of right now. We have Terry McLaurin available to us, DeAndre Swift. Lots of good options here, so I just leave it up to your imagination. We could also take out Travis Kelce, play Xavier Worthy, and move our tight end around. That's another option too. But right now, it feels kind of ugly, but it's Tuesday. Who cares? Patrick Mahomes double stacked with Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce. We happen to not go with a run back option, which is fine. We have Lil Bill to get some exposure to that game. Quinshon Judkins, who I assume is probably going to be the easiest target at running back this week. Chris Olave and Rome Odunze for the little game stack action there, and the Panthers defense because they are playing the Jets. But with that being said, that's all for today's video. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, or even if you didn't, make sure you like down below. Scratch it for brand new. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them down below. I'm more than happy to answer them. We wish you the best, and I'll see y'all next time.